So, which area is better to live in? Vancouver, Washington, or Portland, Oregon? We're gonna put them against each other. Ready, set, fight. Hey guys, Sarah Carman here, your not-so-secret agent, and today we're going to compare the cities of Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington. These two cities, like their states, are separated by the mighty Columbia River, and people don't realize that they are very different from one another, even in all their similarities. So I sat down and I looked at the data. Which one is better? Well, it sounds like it might just come down to a matter of opinion. You tell me at the end. Where would you rather live, Vancouver or Portland? Let's go. Since I'm in real estate, let's start by talking about the average price of a home. Now, this is comparing all the sales of homes in Vancouver and Portland in October of 2020. I sat down with the numbers, added them all up, divided them, did the thing it needed to do to get the average price of a home in the Portland area and an average price of a home in the Vancouver area. Now, Portland topped out Vancouver by quite a bit. The average price of a home in Portland was $536,175 in October of 2020. That's right, over $500,000 for the average price of a home in Portland. Now, as we're talking about these averages, I really want to stress that this is average. You will find homes for under this, you will find homes for over this. This is the average price in Portland, $500,000+. Holy guap. In Vancouver, we saw a much less number at $421,669 for a home. Again, average price. There are some areas of Vancouver where you can find them a little bit less, and some houses in Vancouver are going for a little bit more, but average, we're looking at just over $400,000. Now, when it comes to utilities and other cost of living things, Oregon and Washington, and specifically Portland and Vancouver, are very, very close. There's not a lot of change between the price in heating or cable, those kinds of things. Same with the cost of food. It's roughly the same. Gas prices can vary depending on the day. Sometimes it's cheaper in Oregon, sometimes it's cheaper in Washington. Those change so quickly, but that price of a home is where we really see our first major difference when it comes to cost of living. So if we're looking at the price of homes being different, what do taxes look like, right? What are we paying when we live there in taxes? Well, let's start in Portland. So Portland does have an income tax, and they're actually one of the top 5 most expensive income taxes in the United States, with roughly 9.9% for the single individual. Yikes, that's the income tax. The upside though is that Portland does not have a sales tax. So what you see on the shelf, that's the price you're gonna pay. You're not gonna pay an additional percentage. It's just what you see is what you get. On the flip side in Washington, over in the Vancouver area, there is no income tax for the state of Washington. Now, the caveat is if you're living in Vancouver and you work in Oregon, there is still a income tax there that you have to pay, and how that all works is really something you should probably be talking to your tax person about. That's outside my wheelhouse. But I do want to give you that heads up that just because you live in Washington and work in Oregon doesn't save you from that sales tax. Talk to your tax representative to find out more. But if you live and work in Washington state, as of now, there is no income tax. There is a sales tax, and in Vancouver, Washington, that sales tax is 8.4%. So still slightly less than what we're seeing in Portland, and that is only for items that are considered non-essential. So most of your grocery items will be considered tax-free, but your car or your boat, those are going to be taxed. What if your family is accident prone and hospitals matter to you? Well, Vancouver does have its share of hospitals. There are several in the area, including a few surgical centers. But Portland is really where it's at with their 11 hospitals. Now, 2 of those are trauma level 1 centers. You also have 3 children's hospitals. These hospitals are amazing and dedicated specifically to children. One of which is Dornbecker's, one of which is Randall's, and the third is a Shriners Hospital. You have 4 teaching hospitals, including OHSU, which brings me kind of to my next topic, and that is one of the top careers. Now, for both Portland and Vancouver, one of the top careers is actually a doctor. nursing staff, medical professionals in this area are aplenty, and that comes down to the fact that we have so many teaching hospitals. It's a great place if you're looking to get into the medical field. For Portland, Nike and Intel are both within the Portland footprint. Now, both of them are just outside of Portland, but there is easy access to both Intel and Nike. They are also huge for manufacturing. So whether it's manufacturing things like Intel manufactures stuff or other manufacturing things, there is plenty of manufacturing happening in Portland. Across the river in Vancouver, we actually see that teaching and education tend to have a higher amount of people working over here. So many of our people are teachers and educators in all different levels. We also have a huge population that works for the railway. The railroad out here is definitely a big deal. So those are some of our top industries out here. The semiconductor industry is big in both sides. Again, thanks to Intel, we do have that, and there's multiple different manufacturing and industries that assist those in manufacturing in the area. What about schools? How do the two schools compare? Now, it's really hard to compare and say, well, this one scores better, that one scores better. So I just went with a simple, what's the graduation rate? Portland, Oregon has an 80% graduation rate amongst their seniors. So out of 100 kids, 80 of them will see graduation. In Vancouver, we see that number's a little bit higher at 85%. So if you're looking at schools and that's something that's important to you, that might be something you want to factor in. But the reality is that each area has different schools and has different levels, and it's something we can talk about when and if you're coming out this way to look at a home. With 2020 being an election year, I realized that politics might matter to some people. So I sat down and compared them, and it turns out that both Portland and Vancouver are blue areas. So they do typically vote Democrat. That being said, in Congress, Portland is represented by Democrat Earl Blumhauer as of today in November 2020. But Vancouver has one of the only Republicans in Congress representing the West Coast, and that is Jamie Herrera Butler. Again, this is as of November 2020, so these things could change, but as of right now, they are both representing. So again, both areas are blue outside of that one congressional situation in Vancouver where a Republican does represent this district. Now, what about things to do? Portland and Vancouver both offer a plethora of things to do, and here's the beauty of it. They're not that far apart. So it's not a big deal if over the weekend you want to go from Vancouver to Portland to go visit OMSI, or maybe come from Portland to Vancouver to visit Fort Vancouver, where we get our name. But they both do have plenty to do. There are parks, there's different hikes. Mount Hood is actually not that far away. Frankly, neither is the coast. So both Vancouver and Portland offer a plethora of things to do if you're someone who likes to keep busy and wants to be a part of the community. Speaking of things to do, let's talk professional sports. Now, Vancouver doesn't have any professional sports of their own. Portland does. They do have the Timbers, who play in the MLS, and then you have your NBA team, the Blazers. They both play from Portland and are so much fun to watch. But Vancouver may have the edge because, see, they can go across the river and watch both Timbers and Blazers games. But Seattle isn't all that far away either, where they can watch the Kraken, they can watch the Mariners, and they can watch the Seahawks. So really, who's winning there? All right, guys, well, I can't tell you what to think. And the reality is that I'm personally torn. As a born in Oregon girl and a currently living in Washington girl, I'm torn. Both cities have great features. What I can tell you is the Pacific Northwest is where it's at. So whether you're living in Portland or you're living in Vancouver, I know that you're gonna have a blast. If you're looking to move to either area, I'd love to talk to you. I'm on both sides of the river. I'm a broker with ERA Freeman Associates serving the greater Portland metro area, and a broker with Columbia River Realty Powered by ERA serving the Southwest Washington area. And if you're looking to move here, let's talk. Again, I would love to know, what do you think about Portland and Vancouver? Drop it in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and we'll talk again soon.